The fallout following the utter humiliation handed to the players, staff and fans of Manchester United by Brentford on Matchday 2 was unsurprisingly a spectacle. The wider football media and fandom alike couldn't wait to stomp on the once mighty club. Oh, how the giant had fallen. It wasn't just that United had lost their first 2 matches, it was the manner in which they lost. Not only were the scorelines embarrassing, no disrespect to both Brighton and Brentford, the players looked lost on the pitch, and the club, as a whole, had lost their way. Deservedly so, the players and managers got their fair share of criticism throughout the week. But for most United fans, it was painfully obvious where the true blame lied for this mess: the Glazers. United's performance against Brentford and the ownership tenure of the Glazer family could both be summarised quite simply as this: a calamity of errors. From directionless and panicked transfer decisions, to the utter lack of modern footballing structure at the club, and a total neglect of the fanbase to boot, the Glazers' quote-unquote legacy felt like little more than a stubborn skid mark. Gary Neville summarised, most notably when news surfaced about the European Super League. But this felt different. It felt like more than a small group of match-going fans getting together in green and gold. It felt like more than just an online trend. This time, with a large majority of the fanbase unified in disgust at the Glazers, it really had some substance. And some of this, certainly, was in large part due to public statements made by a real, tangible buyer, which previous Glazers Out movements had lacked. Firstly, it was Michael Knighton, former director of Manchester United, who came out warning the Glazers of an intent to submit a hostile bid.
Well, there's a simple answer. We are a club in crisis, and we all know the reason why. We have an inept and frankly a useless ownership who know little about this game of football. We are now working on the offer document. Remember, John, it's a hostile bid. That simply means the club isn't officially for sale. But my intention is to present these owners with a legitimate and potent and proper commercial offer to say, you've run out of road, it's time to go.
But fans were sceptical. After all, Knighton was famous for a botched bid to buy Manchester United for a comically low sum in 1989. What this did achieve, though, was open the door for more realistic buyers to stick their noses in, most notably Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Andy Mitten on the Talk of the Devils podcast summarises the current situation.
Britain's richest man, he's a Mancunian, he grew up as a Manchester United fan, has come out, or his spokesman has, and said that he is interested in taking over Manchester United. It is explicit. I want to buy Manchester United, says Jim Ratcliffe. And I think if you polled Manchester United fans now, 90% of them would ask yes or no, would say yes to that.
Amidst the chaos, in a desperate attempt to try to get the fans back on their side, or at least a little less furious before the match against Liverpool, the Glazers threw shame to the side and money at the issue, which they'd been so reluctant to do all summer. At first, nothing seemed different. The expectation of the fanbase after the Brentford match was that the move for Rabiot would go through relatively soon, with all parties seemingly nearing a deal. But then news began to slow before the deal was completely called off, with extortionate wage demands being cited the reason. Rabiot to Rabi no. But truth is, many United fans were unconvinced by what Rabiot would bring to the table anyway. And what on the surface looked like yet another transfer failure would well and truly turn out to be a blessing in disguise. On the same day that Rabiot's transfer collapsed, a storm of very exciting yet seemingly unrealistic news began to surface. United were linked with 30-year-old Brazilian defensive midfielder Casemiro. Yes, the Casemiro, last year's La Liga and Champions League winner, and an integral part of Real Madrid's legendary Bermuda Triangle midfield. Initially, this felt like yet another media-driven story to deflect the heat off the Glazers. But the news kept going, and going, and going. Was this really going to happen? Then the bombshell dropped. Carlo Ancelotti, the Real Madrid manager himself, stated this: "I've spoken with Casemiro. He wants to try a new challenge. We respect Casemiro and his decision. He wants to leave. We didn't try to convince him to stay. I listened to his desire. I respect it. Negotiations are ongoing for Casemiro. He won't play tomorrow." Oh my goodness. This man, a proven winner with more trophies to his name than Spurs, probably, in the prime of his career and in the position United desperately needed, was coming through the door. Madrid would host a tribute where he would say an emotional goodbye to his teammates. Then, he was ours. Welcome, Casemiro. Then there came more news about another Brazilian. The last time Antony was mentioned, it seemed as though United had been priced out of a move. 100 million euros just seemed absolutely ridiculous. But then reports surfaced that United had put in a new bid of 80 million euros, which still sounded bonkers, only for Ajax to turn it down. But that wasn't the end. Unfazed by the rejection, United were ready to go full clingy mode. The player made it clear he wanted to join too, choosing to miss training sessions and even being left out of a matchday squad. With reports that United were prepared to go in all guns blazing, with their sights set on De Jong, Antony and Gakpo, whether or not they all came off, United were in for a wild finish to the window. Come matchday, the drama wasn't close to ending. Fans turned up in their thousands to protest against the Glazer ownership. Led by the 1958 group, the protest was a huge success as almost 10,000 United fans marched towards Old Trafford to make their voices heard, while keeping the event peaceful and allowing the match itself to be unaffected. Enough is enough. Glazers out. Then followed what many fans had been waiting for since the announcement. Casemiro was unveiled to the Manchester United fans as he walked out onto the Old Trafford pitch. Two things could be true at once. While the Glazers were still culpable for so much wrongdoing at the club, this was still, nonetheless, a statement signing. If there wasn't enough energy in the building already, this certainly brought out more. And finally, it was time for the match against Liverpool. One of the spectacles of every Premier League season, surrounded by rich history and storylines, fans prayed that they'd avoid similar fate as the 2021-22 season, where they saw United get utterly destroyed 9-0 over the course of 2 games. These were the starting 11s for both teams. Yet more drama. Fans had expected to see changes following the disastrous Brentford result, and there had been rumours regarding the lineup all throughout the week, but many were still very surprised to see the captain, Harry Maguire, left out of the starting lineup for Varane. While certainly it was the decision many wanted, it was still a huge statement call made by Ten Hag. Another surprise was Ronaldo being left on the bench after starting last week, as Elanga came into the team on the left. Yet another huge call in such a huge match. Most of Liverpool's lineup was as expected. Summer signing and United target Darwin Núñez was suspended for a red card in the previous match. Their midfield, however, did seem quite weak, as Fabinho was a surprising exclusion due to tactical reasons, and Thiago and Keita were nursing injuries. You could see the headlines already should Ten Hag's decisions not pay off. There was only one way to find out. From minute 1, the tone was set for the game. As Salah tried to hold up the ball, Martinez came charging in from behind, pushing him, falling on him, then giving him a shoulder to boot. Salah ain't want none of it. In this match, United's strategy was clear: play the ball long. De Gea would, and find Sancho, who lays it off to McTominay. He, Dalot and Sancho form a lovely triangle to play some nice one-touch passing, before McTominay finds Bruno, who plays a reverse pass to Rashford, who had made the run between the gap between Liverpool's 2 centre-backs. Rashford charges towards the box, but Van Dijk is able to recover and get a foot in. A very positive start. United would threaten to get in behind time and time again in this match. De Gea again plays the ball long. Bruno tries a flick-on header, but Gomez is able to intercept. His pass though is cut out by Bruno, who again threads a pass in behind for Rashford. Rashford shrugs off Trent with his shoulder, who's forced to trip him up. It was going to be a long night for the right back. United's press had bundles of energy throughout the whole match, and it would result in a huge chance. McTominay cuts out Robertson's pass down the line, and plays a great through ball again between the enormous gap between Van Dijk and Gomez as Bruno and Elanga charge forward. Bruno slides in to just about get there before Gomez and somehow finds Elanga. He opens up his body to find the far post, but unfortunately the shot cannons off the post and out. Here you can see just how vulnerable Liverpool was in behind for the counter. Elanga should definitely have scored, but this was already miles better than against Brentford. De Gea seemed really intent on making up for his errors last weekend. On a Gomez long ball, he steps out well beyond his box to boot it clear. The only joy Liverpool really had was through long switches to the flanks. Salah receives a long diagonal from Van Dijk and cleverly outmaneuvers Malacia before sending in a low cross to an incoming Firmino. But Varane is there just in time to put in a vital challenge. This would be one of many brilliant moments for Varane in this match. All the pressure United were putting on Liverpool's defence wouldn't be for naught, as Old Trafford would erupt moments later. Bruno plays a ball in behind for Rashford to chase. Rashford holds up the ball on the wing before finding Bruno on the edge of the box. He sends in a cross, but the ball is cleared. On the second phase, Malacia recycles the ball back to Martinez, who plays a one-touch pass to Elanga out on the wing. Elanga, who had failed to take on Trent twice earlier in the game, plays a nice 1-2 around him with Eriksen. Elanga easily gets around a totally disinterested Alexander-Arnold and plays a low cross into an unmarked Sancho. Milner does his best to try to recover, but is sent to eat dirt by Sancho's brilliant shot fake, along with Alisson in net. Van Dijk doesn't even bother closing the angle, as Sancho is left to coolly slot it into the bottom left-hand corner. Oh, what a feeling. United won, Liverpool 0. The King was pleased, while Milner certainly wasn't. Elanga was full of confidence after providing the assist. He cleverly turns away from Trent near the halfway line and charges all the way down the sideline. Trent and Gomez are forced to double team as Elanga nears the Liverpool box, but he cleverly sneaks the ball between them as Trent is forced to bring him down for a yellow. 66 was so deep in the mud. From the ensuing free kick, Eriksen sends the ball towards the far post. Alisson is equal to it and makes a great save. Something else that was so refreshing, apart from the absolute solidity at the back, was the camaraderie and team spirit shown by the United players. Trent has the ball on the right wing and sends in a low cross. Firmino is able to shield the ball from Martinez and lays it off to Salah. Unlike Van Dijk, Martinez closes Salah down aggressively and throws his body in the way of his shot. High fives all round. In a sport like basketball, the players tap after every little sequence. To see United players doing this, I bloody love it. An area of vulnerability still for United was set pieces. As the ball comes in, Milner is able to get a relatively free header. Luckily it goes wide and Bruno is there to clear. Except he doesn't, and just straight up smashes it towards our own goal, hitting Martinez in the ribs. It looked even more ridiculous from this angle. I know you want to score, Bruno, but this ain't it. Martinez would clear the ball from danger, and it wasn't a handball by maybe a millimetre. Half-time stats would read like this. Liverpool dominated possession and passing metrics, but had nothing to show for it in terms of creation. They had one more shot than United, but mostly of low quality, as indicated by the differences in expected goals. Ten Hag would make one substitution for the second half, bringing on Martial for Elanga. This would shift Rashford to the left of the front three. Less than 10 minutes into the second half, Old Trafford would erupt once more. Alexander-Arnold tries a searching ball forward, but Varane is there to meet it. Henderson miscontrols it in the middle of the field, and Martial is there to wriggle the ball away from Van Dijk. He plays a perfectly timed through ball for Rashford, as Gomez fails to play the offside trap. There ain't no catching him, as Rashford goes one-on-one with the keeper and calmly slots it into the near post. The game's about fine margins indeed, and Ten Hag is loving it. Shortly after the goal, Liverpool would create a golden opportunity. Trent plays a ball down the line. Milner cleverly leaves the ball, taking Malacia out of the game as Salah comes to meet it. Salah, with Martinez tight to him, lays off for Elliott, who plays a first-time lob into the channel. Both defenders are left out of position, but Eriksen diligently tracks Milner's run. Milner still gets past him though, and Varane tries to come across to block the cross, but the ball finds its way to an unmarked Diaz. He surely should score, but De Gea does what he does best, and pulls out a ridiculous save with his leg. It should be 2-1, but only a minute later, it was United causing Liverpool problems once again. Eriksen's corner is cleared at the front post. Sancho wins the second ball and lofts it to Bruno, who heads it into the box. Varane, who is onside, controls it with his chest, does a few keepy-ups, then finds Rashford, who steers it towards the far corner, and Alisson is forced full stretch. The game drifted on, with Liverpool dominating possession once again without creating many chances, until Rashford would create yet another chance. He first burns Trent, then Megs Elliott, then flicks the ball over Gomez's head, before getting off a shot in the box, which goes over the bar. He was having some game, this lad. Liverpool really began to push in the last 10 minutes. Trent swings in a ball from the right corner flag. Robertson meets it and sends it back across goal. Martinez gets there in front of Firmino, but inadvertently diverts the ball towards the net, and De Gea is forced to make a flying reaction save. 2 own goal scares in one match. Here's another dap for you. From the ensuing corner, Liverpool would finally get on the board. Dalot clears the ball at the far post. Elliott is there to meet it and heads it back into the box. The ball sails over Eriksen and lands at the feet of substitute Carvalho. He swivels and shoots, but De Gea is equal to it. However, Dalot fails to get goal side of Salah, who sneaks in and meets the rebound with his head, to just about squeeze it into the net. Some shenanigans followed as Bruno refused to give the ball to Salah to take it to the centre circle. The referee steps in as Salah begs him to hold me back. Bruno was already on a yellow at this point, and the ref tells him just how close he was towing the line. Liverpool continued to probe until the end, but the final chance of the game would once again fall to United. Even in the 91st minute, United were still pressing. As Van Dijk switches the play, Bruno, who had been up keeping an eye on Gomez, sprints back to midfield. By the time Trent brings the ball down and tries to play forward, Bruno's back in position. The ball bounces off him kindly to Fred, who forms a nice passing triangle with Malacia and Bruno around the two Liverpool defenders. With them now out of position, Fabinho is forced to come over to Fred on the touchline, as Bruno gives him the ball. When Fred returns the ball to Bruno, it's effectively a 3-on-3. Bruno threads the ball through as Martial makes an out-to-in run from right wing. Martial bamboozles Robertson as Danya makes a late run into the box past the sleeping Gomez. Martial chooses the unselfish option and tries to play Danya in, but Alisson saves the day by swinging his legs into the path of the ball, inches away from sealing the game. These were the full-time stats. Liverpool unsurprisingly finished the game dominating possession and passing metrics, but United were solid as can be defensively. The once jovial Jurgen Klopp before the match could barely look Ten Hag in the eyes at the game's conclusion. An absolutely thrilling affair between two of England's biggest clubs, and a win to put us on top of Liverpool on the Premier League table. Well, who saw that coming? The dichotomy between this match and United's first two fixtures was palpable, and this was exactly the response the fans were hoping for. The 13.8-kilometre run punishment Ten Hag handed out, not only to his players but also to himself to share culpability, had been a stroke of genius. The entire team came out ready to fight as they put in tackle after tackle after tackle after tackle after tackle. Both Martinez and Varane put in man-of-the-match performances as they took the game by the scruff of the neck, with Dalot and Malacia handling their own against Liverpool's two biggest threats. For the first time in a long time, United looked a unit at the back. Sancho was showered with love after his cool finish, and Rashford reminded fans just what he was capable of as he laid the smackdown on Liverpool. Elanga showed flashes of his ability against the backpedaling Alexander-Arnold. And Tony Marshall was an assured presence with his hold-up play and assist when he came on at the half. Bruno took on full responsibility of the captain's armband as he led the troops admirably into battle. While he didn't show his best on the ball, his tenacity, desire and gamesmanship was there for the eye to see. Eriksen showed his class again as he kept the ball ticking during the small spells United had possession, and McTominay put in an all-round solid performance. Ten Hag announced his arrival to the footballing world as he made bold decision after bold decision, all of which culminated in a statement win. If there was one way to ingratiate yourself with a Man United faithful, this was certainly it. Yes, it was only one game. United took advantage of Liverpool playing perfectly into our counter-attacking game plan. We had seen these types of results before under Solskjaer, only for it to fall apart once again. The ownership was still a massive issue, now more than ever, and no matter how much money they decided to throw at the problem. But we had to start somewhere. A victory the fans needed, the players needed, the whole organisation needed. The season had officially begun. In the next match, United would travel to 11th place Southampton. Could United build on the positive momentum and take all 3 points? Would Ten Hag keep club captain Maguire on the bench yet again? Would any of De Jong, Antony or Gakpo make it through the door? Would Casemiro get his first start as a Red Devil? How would the Ronaldo saga conclude? Join me next week for Chapter 4 of Manchester United's season. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your comments on the Liverpool game down below.